does the residential market somewhat lead the commercial market in location? Like, I hear those comments floating around. What's your opinion on that one?
Generally, yes, because again, like I mentioned before, you don't have commercial without residential. Like, it just doesn't exist. Certain areas, maybe not, like on the outskirts of like a Newcastle, for instance, like which is a major like transport kind of hub. It's less effective. Like, the workers are still got to come from somewhere, whether they go like Sydney or that. But it depends what type. Like, yes, for industrial and office, I'd say that's the easiest one. Retail, yes, for large scale, like Westfields and big shopping centres and stuff like that. Probably no for suburban residential. It's like you can go up to like Byron Bay and there's a thriving cafe. That has nothing to do with the industrial area or the residential. It's just because people are going there. So there's tourists walking past that location. Then you go into like the real suburbs of like Byron Bay, and that's the locals. So that they're servicing the local kind of area. And then with industrial, it's what type of industrial and who's it actually servicing. So like the different types of like warehouse, for instance, you've got like logistics, which is like e-distribution stuff, centers. And then you've got fabrication. So fabrication, if it's near like a airport or a port, that's for transporting like interstate, internationally. If it's surrounded by residential, it's for servicing the local area. So that's like mechanics and spray painters and I don't know, just little kitchen fabricators and stuff like that. So each type services are different. So to kind of strip it back, maybe the way to answer it is the commercial property, you need to look at what's is actually servicing. Because the whole thing of a commercial is it's an enterprise to make money out of people. That's why you have a commercial. So what people is it trying to make money out of and what's it servicing? What's the purpose of it? And then you can kind of go back from there.
So what are people, like somebody that's going to not use a buyer's agent? For example, there are people that I think are a little bit crazy that want to buy in commercial without a buyer's agent and maybe not have the skills to, yet to do it and want to just try it out. What are some of the things that they're missing or not knowing to look for when they're researching locations for themselves to buy in commercial?
Okay, so like ignoring the due diligence alone outside of the location research is a hell of a lot. Like you got to do a lot more and you got to know how to do it as well. You also need access to websites that you probably don't have access to. Like unless you've got a CoreLogic login, you're missing half the piece. With regards to the location, it's this grunt work. So like say you find a location, there are some big providers. So like CBRE, Knight Frank, Savills, companies like that release reports like quarterly and half yearly reports showing vacancy rates and what retail spending is doing and stuff like that. The problem with it, everyday investor, is that does not apply to you. They're looking at like 3,000 square meters plus precincts and shopping centers. You're not going to buy a Westfield shopping center. So you need to kind of look on the smaller scale. It's just grunt work. Like even just going, what's the vacancy rate of an area? You've got to go on CoreLogic, click through every comparable that you can find, see what the leasing campaign was, how long the leasing campaign went for, then to verify it. So call up property managers and find out, okay, what do you got on the books? How long does it take getting filled? So there's a lot more. Whereas residential, you go on like a website like SQM and it tells you what the vacancy rate is for like a 3-4 bedroom house. And it's not perfectly accurate, but it's a pretty good thumbsuck. Whereas the other one, it's completely different. They can also be completely different. Like you might be looking at a 200 square meter warehouse. You won't know if it's got a mezzanine area, for instance. So the rent and vacancy might be completely different to one that's 50% office, 50% space. So there is that like intangible ones where experience comes into it. You can do it yourself, but it's a lot of grunt work. To put it in perspective, us just doing a due diligence report on a property takes 20 to 40 hours and we do it all day, every day. So be prepared. There's going to be about a week's work for you.
Jump in on that one too. Steve's done a really good job of outlining, I guess, step by step with his book as well on the commercial side. So if you are thinking about it, please at least read the book first, is kind of my feedback on that one. You've touched on another good point too, and Jared will talk about, we've got a code to give you as well to get free access to Steve's book.